Ladies and gentlemen,
The most transformative sport event on earth is about to begin.
Those who are in the stadium are on their feet.
it's just a long, niggly climb.
Because it is desperation now. And there it is.
Gold! What a result! Another remarkable athlete about to write another chapter in Paralympic history.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Keep the Flame Alive, the podcast for fans of the Olympics and Paralympics. If you love the games, we are the show for you. Each week we share stories from athletes and people behind the scenes to help you have more fun watching the games. I'm your host, Jill Jaracz, joined as always by my lovely co-host, Alison Brown. Alison, hello, how are you?
100 days to go.
100 days until you will be firmly planted in the wheelchair rugby venue.
You remember you talked about putting a divot in somebody's couch?
Yes.
I'm going to put a divot in some seat in that stadium.
Well, it is very exciting. 100 days until the Paralympics start. It's getting close. It's getting more real every day.
I know. So in the new intro, you have the phrase where somebody says it's a long, niggly climb.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how I'm feeling. Like there's this long, niggly climb, and we just got to get there.
Oh, man. Well, today we are talking with Paralympian Justin Phongsavanh. Justin won the bronze medal in Tokyo in the para-javelin in the F54 class. This is a seated class, and you generate power through a full range of arm, shoulder, and chest movement. We met Justin at the Team USA Media Summit and set up time with him to talk in more detail. So yeah, here we go. Buckle up because Justin was so much fun to talk with. He is no nonsense, and I loved that about him. Justin talked with us about the mechanics of sitting throws, the equipment he uses, and his road to Paris. Take a listen.
Justin Phongsavanh, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about para javelin. And I want to
Thank you
start
for
with
having
just
me.
talking about your setup. So you were in a chair with a fixed pole. Talk about how this works in terms of how you throw.
Yeah, so most of the sports in the Paralympics are adapted from the Olympics. There's very few events that are newly made in the Paralympics. So when they adapted javelin from the Olympics to the Paralympics, I throw a lighter javelin. I throw the 600 because I'm sitting, which is usually the women's weight for the Olympics. My chair that I sit in, there's certain rules in which the chair has to abide by. It can't be too tall. It can't be any weird shape. It has to be a square, and there can't be too much bend on the pole. So what my chair is an 18 by 18 steel 66-pound chair, and it's ratchet strapped to the ground, which is usually anchored in. There's usually anchors in the ground that hold it so the chair doesn't move. And then I strap myself into the chair because there's also rules that your rear end can't lift up off the chair, your knees can't separate from the back of the chair. And then there's a pole that I hold on to because I don't have core function. The pole acts as my abs or my legs to give me momentum to move forward. And then the javelin is just a normal javelin.
Okay, I have 25,000 questions based on that. So why can't your chair be too tall? What does height on a chair do for the throw?
If the height on the chair is too much, first, it would be almost impossible to get onto the chair. And second, then you also want some independency when you're getting in and out of the chair. You don't want to have to, call up a bunch of people to lift you up and hoyer you onto this chair. There's also a sense of fairness when it comes to height, just because the higher you are, the initial height of the throw is higher. So therefore, it's going to go further because you're throwing it taller initially because you're 3 feet off the ground. Well, I think we are, I can't remember, like 50 centimeters, 60 centimeters, like that, or something like that. If you go up to like 5 feet and someone somehow hoyered me up to the top of my chair, yeah, I'd throw a lot further because the jab would take longer to hit the ground.
Does then it help if you have a longer torso? Because you could sit, then your
Yeah,
body
so
would be taller in a sense?
kind of. I mean, when it comes to javelin, javelin's really a technique based sport. So you could be super tall, but if your hand release when you're throwing the javelin isn't tall, it doesn't really matter. So like if my hand is way up here when I'm throwing, that's good. But if my hand's way over here, now there's a height difference of my release height is here compared to over here. So you want it to be released at 12 o'clock instead of like 3 or 4 o'clock because it's less height.
How long does it take to get you set and strapped in?
It's a great question. So there's actually a rule. You have 4 minutes from when your rear end touches the chair. You have 4 minutes to get strapped in and do all of your warm ups. And that's all the time you get.
So your chair is personalized to you. It's not an adjusted chair that other people use as well.
Correct. If there is rules that say that if someone doesn't bring a chair, they are entitled to use another chair, or same thing if they don't bring a javelin, they can use any javelin that's put into the pool of javelins. So if someone really wanted to use my chair, I guess they could, but it is very custom to me. It was made by an engineer for NASCAR roll cages. He made it, built it, engineered it all, and so if they want to try to use it, they can, but I don't think they're going to find great success with it.
Do we dare ask how much the chair cost?
So the chair was actually given to me by the USOPC. They gave me a grant for science and technology, and the guy who did it pretty much didn't charge us any labor. He's one of those guys that loves to make things that are out of the ordinary. And so he was like, I've never done something like this. Let me do it. And we had to pay materials. All in all, I believe the final cost was around $3,000, and that's not even labor.
Are they watching your butt while you throw?
They're watching it. They're watching it.
Okay.
They got all eyes on it.
And you couldn't feel if it moved, so you can't even argue.
They have to also have a camera on it. I mean, I'm popping it left and right. And every camera angle's got every view of my rear end, and so, but I go above and beyond, and I use two straps on my hips to sink my hips in, and I also make sure that my crack isn't showing because that's my biggest fear.
I'm just thinking about the cameras, the multi-view
Oh,
angles here.
there's a lot. I'm not even kidding when I say there's one on every knee, and then there's probably one in each cheek.
So in able-bodied javelin, there's multiple rounds and people are going on and off the field. How does that work with you being strapped in?
Yeah, so this is the one part of seated throws that's a little bit different. Is because of the setup time it takes to strap in the chair, get the chair out, put the new chair in. You do all six throws right away. So you have 4 minutes to get in the chair and warm up, and then you have 1 minute to throw the javelin. And then when they bring the javelin back, or another javelin touches your hand, you have a minute to throw it. So basically, the competition after the chair setup and you've done warmed up will be 7 minutes in total because you get a 1 minute break between three and four. Also, in seated throws, you are not allowed to talk to any coach that is on the field with you. So I'm allowed an attendant, and so they can help me get into the chair, get strapped in because of my disability and how high of a level it is. My class and more severe classes allow that. Anything above my class does not. So you're not allowed an attendant. And I can't talk to my coach. She helps me get set up, and she sits behind me. Can't talk at her, can't listen to her, can't do anything. It's just me, javelin, and that's it.
So making adjustments between throws has to be extremely fast.
Absolutely. That's the one thing that separates good from great athletes is being able to deduce a throw and be able to analyze and apply it to the next throw.
How long did it take you to develop that skill?
I just did it this year, and I've been doing this a while. It's a continuous thing. You can't coach it. It's really you can coach it to a degree of being like the throw went like this as a result of this. And so you can get that knowledge, but when you're in competition, things get sped up, adrenaline gets kicked in, you start moving faster, you kind of go blank minded because you're moving so fast. And so now you have to pull yourself back into reality and be like, all right, why is it doing this? Why are my throws going like this? How can I fix it? And then you have to do it. And I think this year was finally the year that I was able to gain more knowledge of the throws and able to analyze more throws and apply it.
Because you got to do it so fast.
You have to
So
do it so fast. You got a minute. It's not a lot of time to think.
When you had to throw all of your throws at once, how do you develop mindset for a competition? Do you want to be first? Do you want to have knowledge of what other people doing? Because there's no way to say, "Oh, that one was bad. I'm going to see how everybody else does and
Right.
then do my next throw." Or is that also helpful because you can just focus on yourself?
I preferably, and I mean, I haven't talked to my other competitors about this. I personally like being last. If I know what I need to throw, I can go and chase it. If I have to set the standard of the whole meet and I have to sit there and wait 45 minutes to an hour until the competition's done, that's a lot of anxiety. Just sitting there hoping no one passes you. And so I prefer to be last. I've never had to go first. It's totally random order. And so I've been lucky enough, like in Tokyo, I was last. So I knew what I needed to throw and everything.
What kind of adjustments can you make on the fly like that? Like what's actually physically happening that you're changing?
Everything, everything. I could throw a technique one way, and the next throw, everything could look completely different. It's almost like trial and error. Like those 4 minutes and those warm ups are really getting your body dialed in, going through the rhythm, going through the phases in which the throws happen, and then when you actually do throw and you kick in the intensity and the speed, what happened? Where was my arm in the space? Where was the tip? Where was the tail? Where was the finish? Where was my arm height? How did I pull? Where did I pull to? How fast did I pull? What was the timing between the pull on the left arm and the start of the throw on the right arm? Where was the direction of the elbow? Everything can change in that 1 minute of deducing and being able to analytically go through the throw in your head by just watching the flight of the javelin.
Okay, so let's go through just physically what happens when you're throwing. What are you holding? What pulls? What all the different pieces that are happening.
Yeah. So I wear a elbow sleeve and I also wear a belt on my stomach. It gives me a little bit more support, lets me feel a little bit more than I can. And when I throw, I hold on to the pole with my left arm and I do like a rocking motion. I kind of come in forward, go back, and I set it up. I pull forward really fast and I push off this pole pretty much with all my strength. And then now am fully back and I pull as hard as I can with my left arm without moving my right arm or without moving the javelin. And then once my chest is above my hips, is when I start to bring the right arm and I start to throw the javelin.
So, given your disability starts below your diaphragm, where is that power coming from?
I like to say it just comes, I'm pretty much just chest and arms at this point. I'm paralyzed from everything below the diaphragm. So I want to say the strength comes from, well, it's more speed than it is strength. And it's directional speed. So it's speed that goes through a fixed point, which is usually the grip through the tip, and you want a clean javelin throw. And I would say that the speed is just all coming from hand. It's your hand speed. You don't see, pitchers that are really, really buff, but they can still throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball. And the same thing with javelin. You don't see javelin throwers that are really, really buff, but they still throw 100 meters.
So, does that mean that within, say, your hands and your wrists and your forearms, all those kind of quick twitch muscles have to be
Yeah,
developed?
you got it. Yeah, that's all we do in the gym is just fast twitch muscles, speed, eccentric, decentric, all these kind of different weird workouts that I wasn't used to. Now it's now the new norm, and so now I got faster fast twitch and I got a faster hand speed.
So, how good are
What
you at
what kind of
video games?
exercises?
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
what kind of exercises do you do then to develop that fast twitch?
So we stretch a lot. First and foremost, we have to stretch a lot, and we do a lot of like speed bench, eccentric. We do a lot of pulls, we lat pull down, single arm. We do a lot of band stuff. We do nerve flossing, voodoo flossing. We do med ball throws. We do a lot of different dynamic workouts that are specific for javelin. They're not going to get me, fit. They're not going to get me bigger. They're not going to get me more shredded, but they're going to get me faster. They're going to get me to be able to throw this javelin further.
How does the balance in your body work when you can't work your lower body and your upper body is becoming very developed?
Right. It's tough because you're basically a slinky. I'm sitting on a slinky because I don't have abs, I don't have legs, I don't have hips. It comes from first good posture, staying up tall, upright, not too rolled over and slouched forward, getting that center of gravity on top of your hips. But then it really comes from just like lats. My lats are like my abs. They control my lateral movements left to right, and then my head controls my forward and backwards balance. So when you have everything kind of sat up tall, everything's in nice form, balance becomes easy. And it took me a while after rehabilitation to learn that. But luckily, I was fortunate enough to either be born with big lats, or I worked really hard when I was younger to get big lats, but it helped out a lot.
How does breath play into a throw?
I have to tell myself to breathe. I don't really give like a cadence of my breathing at all. I kind of just go through it. I might give like a big deep breath. Honestly, I might hold my breath. I don't even know what I'm doing, if I'm breathing or not when I'm throwing. I really just throw it and then figure that out. Like I said, my mind kind of goes blank in a certain way, because if I start flooding it with a bunch of different thoughts, it's just too much. It's too much. You're going to start overthinking everything, and usually it doesn't work out.
How does that work with the stamina? Because, like, for 7 minutes, you have this really intense multiple throws. So definitely tell yourself to breathe, Dustin. We don't want you passing
To
out
pass out.
in the competition. But how do you build up that stamina for that kind of? It's like a 400-meter almost.
Kinda. I mean, don't get me wrong. At the end of the competition, I'm never out of breath. But when I train, I'm throwing 40, 50 javelins of practice of different weights, of different goals in mind. Not every throw I'm trying to kill it and get, a world record every single throw. I'm trying to get my foundation laid. I'm trying to go through the motions well, so when I that adrenaline does kick in and I bring more speed and I bring more strength, I can handle it with my technique, and it's an advantage rather than disadvantage when it comes to throwing.
So, on that kind of technical thing, what can go wrong with the equipment as you are throwing? Or can things go wrong? I mean, of course they can. But
Yeah,
what can happen?
yeah. The first and foremost, the chair could not be strapped down right, because it could be, cockeyed, it could be a little bit out of whack, and so it could be just uncomfortable from that aspect. You could break a javelin. I mean, I've broken many javelins before, and also a strap could break. Usually most of these things are checked prior. I've never broken a throwing chair. I've only broken javelins. I've broken straps. They've just popped right off. Otherwise, the equipment's pretty sound for the most part, just because it's just strapping down your body. Otherwise, and everything else is reinforced metal, or like my pole is chromoly. It's a pole in a pole. It's one of the hardest materials with rigidity, and so it's certain things you just gotta let happen.
How do you break a javelin?
A javelin hits a javelin. A javelin, snaps. It could be stuck in the ground, and then the momentum of the throw is still going forward, so it bends it. The javelins they're pretty fragile. I mean, they're hollow, and so if it hits, like, I remember when I was in Tokyo, I was practicing, and there was like a 30-meter square, it's like a plastic pylon square, and it said 30 meters on it. I smacked it and hit it right in the middle of my javelin, and the whole javelin bent in half. And I was like, wow, there goes $800, just gone because of this little plastic sign. But it doesn't happen that often. But when it does happen, it stinks.
How many javelins do you have?
So I compete with three. I have three javelins, one for every direction of wind, and they come in different chord thicknesses. And so if I have a headwind, I throw a jab, crosswind, throw a jab, tailwind, throw a different jab. And then when I'm practicing, the practice jabs aren't the same as competition javelins. Competition javelins are usually made out of better material. They're nicer. They could be carbon fiber. They could be whatever else. My practice jabs, I have 20, I believe, and they're not $1,000 javelins each, but the competition ones are.
Can you switch javelin during a competition, or if you start with one, you got to stay with one?
No, you can switch. When it was raining in Tokyo, I switched every throw almost, because I wanted a dry cord.
Was that? I was going to say, is that so someone could dry it off?
Yeah, so someone could dry it off.
Besides wind, what else do you need to be concerned with weather-wise?
Rain stinks. I mean, it's just not great. No one likes being soaking wet while they're trying to throw a slippery metal stick, and it also messes up the cord a little bit when it's wet. Otherwise, wind is the biggest factor. Like, I was just at Drake last weekend, and we had a gnarly head and crosswind, and it was not ideal, but I was able to go out there and throw pretty well with it, just because we've got a ton of experience throwing in different weather situations.
What about each javelin makes it good for that type of wind.
Yeah, I'm not an engineer. I don't. It just they advertise it. They say headwind javelin, tailwind javelin, or just universal
Mhm.
javelin. I said I'll take one of each.
Putting that on the list, Allison.
Okay, this is a really basic question, but when you have multiple javelins, how are they identified in your bag? Like, do you have little labels on them? Like, how does that work?
There's nothing that distinguishes that they're mine, but when we check them in, we get a receipt saying that these are your javelins. And I'll tell you right now, I will fight tooth and nail if someone says it's not my javelin. Oh, I'm that's it's and if it's mine, I'm taking it. Like regardless, like it's I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna show you pictures. I'm gonna have the receipts. I'm gonna have everything. So there's nothing that distinguishes it. Some of my competitors always use my javelins. They always pick my javelins. I hate it more than anything because I'm like, bring your own javelins. Use someone else's. Why you always got to pick mine? So I literally thought about like making a javelin that has my last name on it, red, white, and blue. So if they pick it up and they throw it, yeah, you can advertise me in my country. I don't care. Maybe make
It's a
them think
B
twice.
it's a BYOJ event.
It is a BYOJ, and I hate it that that's a rule. But also, like I do understand that some countries can't afford nice javelins to throw.
Why are you messing with throwers? Like, this could end so badly.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but they do. They love pushing the button, and I mean, I don't know what they're saying because we don't speak each other's languages, but I know it's not nice.
Is there trash talking in throws?
In my sport, in my category, I wish I want an enemy, I want a rival, I really do. But every time I go there and I try to put on my mean mug face and my like, I'm standing on business. Everyone's like, "Hello, senor, senor, hello," and I'm like, you know, I'm like, you got why do you got to be nice? Like I want to hate you, but I can't. And so I just say hello and I just move on.
I do want to talk a little bit about the arc because we talked a little bit about
Mm.
that before. Just the what is the ultimate arc that you're trying to achieve for distance?
For us, our release angle of around 38 to 42 degrees is the best for me in my category. And then it's just about arm height. You want that arm pretty much right at your ear when you're releasing it, and you don't want the tip too high because the forces are just going to go straight up and straight down. So for us, it's 38 to 42 degrees.
Did you ever think you would be so excited about geometry before you took this up?
I loved geometry. I
Okay.
hated algebra, but now that I'm an adult, I'm like I actually use algebra quite a bit. And I'm lucky enough that like, I don't have to use geometry too much. There's people at the USOPC in the sports science that were able to give me these numbers. Otherwise, I would have just said, I'm just going to throw it and figure it out then.
So, have you done those test and video pieces where they sort of put you on a grid and they film you and you adjust your hand to get the so
Yeah,
what is that experience like?
it's cool. It's a little bit harder for me because my chair is metal and it reflects whatever rays that they're trying to do. And so like the Olympians get it real good. Like they can get hand speed, mile per hour, arm height, release angle, all these different things. For us it's more so we got to like take a picture and then do it manually rather than using the software because that metal chair reflects everything all the data that they're trying to accrue.
It's
But
like
it
the
was pretty cool.
paparazzi scarf of
It is the paparazzi scarf. It's I always thought like if I just covered it with lead maybe and then it would like like an x-ray machine, but you can't just buy lead vests like that in that size.
it's the size that's the problem,
Yeah, it's
Justin.
it's big. It's big. Yeah, it would take a lot, and I don't think it was worth the investment
It'd be
for.
heavy too. You'd have a really heavy chair then.
Yeah, I mean, it would only be like a blanket that goes over it. I mean, the chair is already 68 pounds. I mean, it's a monster in itself.
So let's talk about traveling with your chair and your pole and
Mm,
your other pole.
yeah,
How
it's
does
the
this
worst.
work?
The throwing chair is on wheels. It has wheels, so luckily it rolls. Traveling with the throwing chair, the javelins, the throwing chair bag, usually a suitcase and usually a carry-on, is so much. It's the worst part. Like, there's nothing I look forward to more than just getting rid of it. like I would love if this chair was like 20 pounds. I can just throw it in a backpack and we can get going. But it's luckily it's I only have to go from the curb outside to the check-in desk inside and get it all checked in like that. Otherwise, if I had to go like through a massive airport with it, which I've done, it's just not fun. It's not, but it always works out.
Is there always a question of what it's gonna look like when it comes out the other end? The
The
luggage?
the
The
throwing chair, no, not as much because I'm more worried that it's going to do more damage to the plane. And I mean, there's certain I take everything off. I take off all the straps. I try to take off everything that I can, especially when it's a long flight. And the javelins I worry about, but it's in a nice case. Really, the only thing that gets messed up when I'm flying is my wheelchair. They have broken probably four of my wheelchairs to the part of like I land in another country, got popped tires, I'm missing wheels, things are just messed up. But they always do a great job and they've replaced the wheelchair in a timely manner. And now I have a new wheelchair that actually goes inside the cabin in the overhead bin.
That's gonna be
Okay, now I
pretty
got.
sweet.
Does it collapse like one of those foldable bicycles?
Kinda, yeah. It's so the backrest folds down, and then the front wheels fold under. So it's the size of a suitcase. It's around, I want to say 2.5, 3 kilos. So it's like 5 pounds. It's real light, and it literally fits in the overhead of the plane.
That is cool.
It costs $12,000.
Wow,
Yeah,
not surprising. That's of
yeah.
course it's gotta be cool for that much.
All
It
right.
better
To
it
get
it,
it.
it better take pictures of your butt for that much.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more for that much. You can buy a used Honda Civic for that.
So, what does the life look like between now and the Paralympics?
Chilling. I got World Championships in. I compete on the 25th of May. I'll leave here in about 2 weeks for the World Championships in Kobe, Japan, and then I'll have another competition in June, just a tune-up meet in the month of June here in Georgia, and then the trials are in July in Florida. And so at the trials is where I have to show up and I have to do really well to make it to the games. So I don't look too far into the games. I got to look forward to trials first. And then after and then so basically also I'm just chilling. Like the biggest thing is staying healthy. I don't want to do anything to jeopardize my shoulders, my wrist. I don't want to break literally and figuratively not break a leg. And so it's just chilling, maintaining. I do a lot of PT, a lot of rehab, try to hang out with a lot of my friends if I can. And yeah, just taking it easy as much as I can.
Okay, trials in Florida in July sounds really unpleasant.
I'm in Georgia.
Oh,
It's
that's
it's
true.
it's two peas in a pod over here. I'm not
But
too worried about it.
but when it's so hot and humid, what does that do to the throwing environment?
Nothing. Nothing.
Really?
I mean, it comes with the sport. It's really like people that complain about the weather. We're an outdoor sport. Like the Minnesota Vikings are always going to compete if it's snowing, just like how they would compete if they were in Miami, Florida against the Dolphins when it's hot. We are an outdoor sport. We're adaptive athletes. It's in our name to be able to adapt to any situation. And so when it's hot, it's hot. When it rains, I'm going to complain, but I'm still going to compete.
I'm going to complain a lot if if I'm sitting there and it is raining.
Oh yeah,
Justin
the rain,
Phongsavanh, to come
the
and see you and it rains, we have a big problem.
yeah, the rain's not great. The rain's not great, but the heat, I can deal with heat. Heat's fine. Cold, I mean, we don't compete till the summer, so I've never really had there like an opportunity where it's like, wow, it's 40 degrees and I have to throw outside.
How has the world of para-athletics changed in the time you've been competing?
You're starting to see more involvement with para sports and able-bodied sports. There's starting to become a better integration. There's also more publicity around disabled sports, which is incredible. I would also say and argue that there's more financial opportunities for a Paralympian to be able to make a livelihood out of this sport. Because I'll tell you right now, there's probably, I think our national team has probably 65 people on it. And I guarantee 40 or to 50 of those athletes do not have a professional sponsor. And it just comes with the territory. I don't want to say it's new because it's over, it's actually an old organization, an old sport, but it's just not a lot of attention towards it. And It makes sense given that the marketing hasn't been the best for disabled sports, and especially for a sport that's parallel to the Olympics. But it's getting there, especially with LA 2028 coming up in a couple years. I think the sport of Paralympic athletics, para athletics, and just para sports in general is going to blow up in America at least because it's already big in Europe.
So what differences do you see in what is happening in Europe?
They really support their athletes. Also, the way that they pay their athletes is significantly better. Significantly better. I'm talking you're not living in poverty. Like for us to actually make a livelihood and to be able to own a house and to do everything, you have to work. Like I have to work a 9 to 5 job. I'd have to go work 40 hours somewhere to be able to support that. Otherwise, the money that the USOPC gives us for being top three in the world is not enough to live on. And it makes sense because we are a nonprofit organization, the Team USA is. And so we can only get so much money for it. But other countries, they use the lottery system. They pay their athletes out of the lottery. They also provide them ample bonuses and all these other things. And I think just Europe has done more because they've had a lot of games over there. Like they had London 2012, and that's really when, even prior to that, it was still big. But now, like after 2012, it really blew up. So I'm hoping that the same happens with LA 2028.
Okay, now since we brought up money, do you have an opinion on the $50,000 Olympic gold medal money that World Athletics is handing out?
Yeah, that's great. I think and the USOPC also gives you $36,000 for winning a gold medal, and I think it's 24 for a silver and 15 for a bronze. And that finally got matched the last games for Paralympians. I would love if World Athletics would kick us 50K for a gold medal, but also understand that we don't do anything for World Athletics and they don't do anything for us. So why would they just shell out, probably $3-4 million for our gold medalists when we've done nothing for World Athletics? If USATF on the other hand would do that, that'd be great because every Paralympic national team member that's on the national team has a USATF membership. Yeah, the money's. I would love to see more money to us athletes. I would love if to be a Paralympian is no easy feat. To be a Paralympic Games medalist is a whole different ball game. And then if you also want to take into consideration to be a Paralympic Games, a Paralympian and a record holder, it takes a whole different beast. And it's hard to get there when you have to go work a 9 to 5. And then you have to after go and train and do everything just so you can live. It'd be great if they paid us, $2,000 a month to be able to pay for a mortgage or rent and food.
So, what is that beast that differentiates a competitor versus a medalist versus a record maker?
Really, I think it's a combination of genetics. It's really hard to be 4'9" and run a 100-meter dash and break the world record. And so genetics takes a big part in it, but then it also comes down to nutrition, comes down to environment. Where are you training? What are you doing? Do you have a coach? Are you eating well? Are you resting well? Are you doing everything right? And then are you doing more than what is asked of you? Because you can go, your coach can make you a workout. You can go to the gym. Nice, you finished it. What are you doing the rest of your day? What are you doing after that 1 hour workout? Are you staying healthy? Or are you just going to go lay in bed for 9.5 hours until you go to sleep? What are you doing that is beneficial to you to be a champion? And the people that get it, and the people that don't. And I mean, you really have to do everything right if you want to be on that podium and you want to be written in history books.
What will success in Paris look like to you?
Gold, gold. That's the only thing I'm looking at. Before in Tokyo, it was to get there. I wanted to get to the games. It was my first ever games. It was, the epitome of like what the world just was on standstill for a year and the pandemics and the first time the games has ever been delayed and postponed. And so I was like, let's just get there. Let's just make sure I get there and enjoy the experience, take everything in, do everything that I can. And this time, now that I've done that, I still respect the eliteness that it takes to get to the games, but also I'm more confident in myself and my abilities now. And gold is the goal, only goal.
That's a lot of pressure. So how do you manage that kind of putting pressure on yourself, getting the external pressure and not freezing with that?
Pressure makes diamonds. I've been my high school coaches used to always tell me this. I've competed in a lot of competitions in my life, whether it was in high school when I was able-bodied or if it's in the Paralympics, and the pressure never gets to me because the way that a thrower is good is if your average throw on a bad day is a world record standing throw, you're the best. So I want my average to be other people's personal bests. That's what I want. And if I can get to that position to where, just an average throw is 31 meters and this other guy over here has only ever thrown 29 meters his whole life, I win. So I'm going to raise my average so it's better than everyone else's. So then I have a baseline and it's only up from there, but no pressure.
That's now I'm concerned.
No, I'm not too worried about it. If it's one of those things where if you don't have a goal and you don't give everything you can to it, I don't want to look back and be like, wow, if I would have just done that, I might have won. Because I did that in Tokyo. I watched all the footage and I was like, if I would have just made that one adjustment, I would have won. And I don't live like that anymore. I'm going to throw all my eggs in this basket. I'm going to bet on me. I'm going to bet on my coach and my team and my athletic prowess to be able to put me at the top of that podium.
You didn't do so bad in Tokyo, though.
Didn't do great, but didn't do bad. Third
How,
place is the happy position because you're happy to be on the podium. You're not that fourth place guy that's looking up and like, dang, I missed it. Second hurts. Second hurts. So I was happy just to be on the podium at all because the competition was really stiff. They were really good that day.
when do you know you're going to have a good throw? Like in terms of that day and that actual moment of the throwing?
It changes. It's anything because, like I said before, like making those adjustments on the fly all the time. Every throw could change. In javelin, there's always a variable rate of change. So I could throw 29, 30, 30, 30, 25, and then I could come back and throw 34. You just never know because you're making those adjustments. But everyone has a baseline average. Like I would say my baseline average is 29 meters. I should at the end of the competition I should never drop below that, and I should only go up from there.
When you talk about making the podium, is it different in a sport where you do all of your throwing at once?
What do you
I
mean?
don't know if that makes sense. That didn't make
What-
sense. Yeah, scrap that question. I don't know what I want.
Do you mean because you used to have to sit around and wait?
It's
Yeah, but I guess in throws you have to sit around and wait anyways.
right, but you're going in
So
sequential order over and over and
yeah,
over again. So you kind
yeah,
of know and build on it. It's nicer for me because everyone's done if I'm the last thrower. There is no surprises that could come in the sixth and final round. From the
yeah.
first
Because yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So, but if I'm the first thrower, like now it's a lot of pressure because I got to set this bar really, really, really high so no one else can come and chase it.
yeah, and then you don't know. Like it seems like if you've done a good job and you're an early thrower, but you don't know.
Right. You don't know.
I don't know. I'm just not gonna have words on this one.
No, but I
It
get it. When
probably
you're
is coming
sitting
up.
there, I mean, you know if you've done your best and you kind of know what other people's bests are, but could they have that day where all of a sudden they get that extra foot because
Yeah.
they did something different since the last time you saw them throw?
Adrenaline is a hell of a drug. Like it's a hell of an endorphin. It's a hell of a feeling. And it changes everything. Everything. And so, yeah, I mean, I could go out there and break a world record and I'd be the first thrower and break a world record. That lights a fire under some people and they could come out and they could top it. Don't think that's ever going to happen. My world record's pretty far out there, but you never know. You never know.
What is the classification process like for you? Do you have to get reclassified, or are you kind of a one and your body's stable?
Yeah, so my classification I'll never have to get reclassed just because
Okay.
spinal cord injuries don't. The people that do are like cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, or like autoimmune diseases have to, because they have the potential of getting better or getting worse. My prognosis is a bullet in my spine. It's not moving. It's not getting better. I'm not going to miraculously one day start get up and running, and if I do, no one will know. And so, it's just one of those things that I never have to go through it again.
And what was that process like for you?
The process was easy. They pretty much just like do that little thing on your knee to hit it to get the reaction. They're like, "Oh wow, that didn't work." And then they were like, "Oh hey, do a sit up." And I was like, "Here's me giving my best effort." They're like, "All right, you don't have abs. Also, show me all your medical records." And then I showed them all the medical records. They're like, "Yep, this is your class." I said, "Cool." And that was it. For
How
me, it was
thick
pretty
was
easy.
that file of medical records?
Yeah, it's a flash drive nowadays,
Oh.
so so I didn't have to bring any actual papers, but yeah, it's not too bad. I think it's like 6 pages. It pretty much. I
Oh,
mean,
wow, that's
my
not bad.
diagnosis is pretty
Pretty
standard
cut and
as it
dry.
gets. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never had a surgery. Don't have any rods or anything in. It's just there's a bullet in my spine. It's chilling in there, and then there's fragments floating around.
How do you go through a metal detector?
I don't
You don't, right? So you have to
do
have
that.
some kind of certification.
Like when I go through the airport, they
Yeah.
Yeah.
pull me out to the side and they just
Okay.
pat me down. Yeah.
So
Otherwise, my chair would light up, my body would light up, everything would light up. They have to pull you out to the side and they just pat you down.
yeah, I figured the chair, but I'm like, oh, wait a second. You have
Yeah. Yeah.
Extra metal.
Yeah. Can't get MRIs.
How long before you get to the airport, or how long before your flight do you go to the airport
I'm
with
one of those
all the gear?
guys. Yeah, I'm one of those guys that goes to the airport 3 hours. I'm because sometimes you get flack with the throwing chair. Sometimes they're like, "What is this? How? Oh, this and this and that." And I'm like, "Come on." But luckily now I'm kind of like a reoccurring visitor to Atlanta, and I've gone there so much, become a regular, and they know me, so they know how to ring it up quick, and it's great. It's great. I'm a 3 hour guy because then I like to chill out, grab a drink, grab some food, hang out. I got no problem waiting for a flight. If it's like an early morning flight, I'm probably there only 2 hours because you can't get me there that early.
what did we miss that people should know about what you do?
So I also coach seated throws in adaptive sports. Last year, I believe I did 5 different clinics across the country on my own dime. Went to these different competitions and hosted clinics for adaptive sports and or for seated throws, shot put, discus, javelin, and ambulatory. I even helped coach all across the country on my own dime. I paid to go out there and do these for free, and I have 2 MBA degrees. I have an MBA and a master's in accounting and a master's in business in marketing. And I have the world record, bronze medalist. I'm a free agent. If there's any agents that listen to here, someone wants to sign me, that'd be great. Because I've called over 100 agents and they've all said no.
Do you get ghosted or do they actually tell you no? Because we get ghosted on stuff a lot.
Oh no, I'll keep calling. I'm the king of follow up. I will put you in a app that will send you emails every week until you reply. And so, no, they don't ghost me. They just say we don't take on like paralyzed sports. We don't know how to do that. And I said, listen, if you can represent an NFL guy, I just want his scraps. I just want whatever he doesn't want. If he doesn't want this $5,000 deal because he's making millions, I want that. Please, I'll take that all day. And so, just trying to find someone to take a chance on me. So other than that, I don't have a lot of sponsors. I have 2 good ones, but
Is there a lot of throwing of things that happens in your house?
yeah, absolutely. I'm not handing you anything. I'm throwing it to you. First of all, it's a waste of effort to wheel over to you and be like, here's something so nicely. You want a glass for your coffee? Be ready. I'm going to underhand it to you. And if you're not athletic enough to catch the empty glass, maybe you don't need coffee in the morning. Maybe we should do some cone drills to get you ready for the day. Yeah, I'm throwing everything. Everything that's not breathing, I will throw.
How cool were the little things in Tokyo that brought the javelins and the shot puts back, the little Tokyo cars?
It's becoming standard now. So those were autonomous. Those didn't require anyone. At the Drake relays I just went to in Iowa, they had them. It was a remote control guy though. But yeah, it's incredible because no one wants to have to walk out 100 feet and then run back 100 feet 6 times per thrower. And then also when I'm warming up, I'm probably throwing 4 or 5 times. This man's going to be getting a workout. And he doesn't want to do that, so he just put in that little car. But yeah, it was the first time me seeing it for para sports. They've been doing it for Olympic sports for a long time because no one's running 90 meters, 80 meters back with a 16-pound, hammer throw or a javelin. Just not going to happen.
Does that shorten your rest time between throws then?
Yes. Great question. Yes, it does because when that javelin comes back, and if you're throwing the same javelin, that the javelin gets the officiate's hand and then they hand it to you, it's time. But they mark it. They have to measure the throw after you throw it. They measure it, but they have a laser, so it happens pretty quick within 15 seconds. And the javelin's usually there. And so basically, you have like a minute 15. I don't ever take a full minute to throw this thing unless it's super windy and I'm trying to wait out the wind. Usually I'm like, hurry up, give me that thing.
And if you're not ready, too bad. You're going to have a broken
Yeah,
coffee cup on the floor.
absolutely. There's been so many times too where I've been warming up and the officials aren't paying attention and almost get a javelin in the chest. It's just like, of all the sports, why are you getting distracted? Like, not only do these javelins slide on the ground, they got a pointy tip. If I put this thing in your neck, you're not going to be having a good afternoon. But I haven't done it yet. Hopefully not.
I can see Justin is my kind of javelin thrower.
Right.
I'm just like always yelling like, heads up, move. If you break my javelin, I break your neck. You're still paying for my javelin.
It's not a good way to recruit people into the sport.
No, I mean,
I
it's,
think
it's
it's
not.
a great way.
I mean, it's pretty cool to be dangerous,
That's
Yeah.
exactly. Somebody annoying you, get your javelin out. Oh, I'm just practicing. Oops.
Oops, got you around the neck. It's funny.
Justin, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much, Justin. You can follow Justin on Instagram at Paralympic Thrower, and he will be competing. He's competing in the Para Athletics World Championships in Kobe, Japan, this Friday, May 24th. So be sure to cheer him on.
Il nous reste 100 jours. It's still not good, but you get what I'm trying to say.
100 days to go.
We have 100 days to go. Yeah.
We are 100 days out. Many things have happened. So there's a new promotional film to promote 100 days to go. This is from the International Paralympic Committee.
Part cartoon, part live action film with real shots of people.
Part
fever dream?
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Part action.
On the one hand, the cartoon bit has a very charming French quality. Kind of reminded me of that scene at the beginning of Beauty and the Beast where Belle is going through the French village. I want to hear what people think of those flowers and mushrooms. I was slightly terrified, Alice in Wonderland style.
Yes, Alice in Wonderland style is a very nice veiled way to put it. But this cartoon is very idyllic. Everyone's having fun. We all are in this together kind of thing. And then you get to the action where, no, it's actually, this is hard hitting sports. So get ready for a lot of action and a lot of excitement from the Paralympics. I wanted more of the action and excitement.
And less of the fever dream?
Yes, I did. The fever dream got a little, it just got to be, oh, we're doing this again kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I think that actually, this was only a 30-second spot.
Oh, okay. I watched the full minute one.
Okay. So this was very, very quick. And I think this is actually the introduction to how they're going to be promoting the Paralympics for the next 2.5 months.
Okay.
That we're going to get away from, oh, isn't it lovely and aren't they inspirational? And we're going to kick you in the chest with these sports. Quite literally.
Right. That message I love. I will say that. So we will have links to both the long and short version of this, and let us know what you think. Also, with 100 days to go, ticket sales are sluggish, reports France 24, which is probably an AFP story. They've sold about a third of the tickets that they have so far. This is still not totally unusual behavior, although they'd like ticket sales to start picking up.
And they will. I think this happens every time with the Paralympics where everyone gets all up in a tizzy, fairly.
Mhm.
And then right after the Olympics, that excitement says, oh, wait, I still have this yearn to see things. And then the Paralympic tickets pick up, especially because we keep seeing how hotels are dropping in cost.
Right. So if you can't get tickets to the Olympics, although you could because there's a lot for resale, let me tell you that. And there's also people freaking out about not being able to resell their tickets almost immediately. But if you can't get tickets to the Olympics, go see the Paralympics. Much more affordable on the wallet. And you're going to have just as great a time, I'm sure. I'm excited. Little bit of criticism, thanks to a BBC article about the lack of accessible transportation. Again, there was a push to make things more accessible. That has apparently not happened much with the metro system. Only one of 16 metro lines is fully accessible. It seems like the money that the government put into accessibility went into buses. The problem with bus transportation, that's probably the easiest thing to do and the cheapest thing to do, but the problem with buses is that that mode of transportation often takes longer than the metro and it can be more complicated. So it's a little frustrating. A lot of people end up having to take taxis, which are also being made more accessible, but that puts a bigger dent in your wallet than public transportation. Better news? Australia released its Paralympic kit.
And I said this to you before we were recording. I never thought about accessibility when it came to clothing.
True.
Why would
yeah, it's a big blind spot for us.
And the Australian Paralympic kit has all these accessibility features like magnets instead of buttons, zippers instead of ties on the shoes, slip-ins. This is brilliant. And I love that they're bringing this issue to the forefront, that the Paralympics not only is amazing sport, it can do something simple like there's a lot of people who can't tie their shoes.
Right.
And can't do buttons, and they deserve fantastic clothing too. The Australian kit is so Australian, as it always is. It's fantastic. No other team could wear this. It's beautiful, and it has all these features. Hooray.
Also, Nike is going to re-release the Air Jordan 6 Olympic colorway that first dropped at the Sydney Games in 2000. So if you are a Nike shoe buff, look for those to drop August 3rd. And they will be on Nike sneakers. We'll have a link to that. And they'll also be at select retailers starting at $200 a pair.
How fast is that going to go up on eBay?
I bet it will go up, yes. We have a little bit of Paralympic news for you. The new classification code has been approved in an extraordinary General Assembly. We've been talking about the classification code on and off for a few years because it's been needing to be revamped for quite some time. And that's just a process that takes a very long time to do. Some of the changes that have come in are including the verification of underlying health conditions, eligible impairment assessment, minimum impairment criteria assessment, sports class assessment, updated and strengthened provisions across all aspects of the classification process. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more as we start to learn more about what this classification does. There's also going to be a new international standard which will focus on the policies about detecting and investigating and proceeding with cases of intentional misrepresentation.
So this code is not going to be in place for Paris or Milan. Just to make this more confusing, as in these codes are going to be changing. Welcome to TKFLASTAN.
It is the time of the show where we check in with our team Keep the Flame Alive. These are past guests of the show and listeners who make up our citizenship of TKFLASTAN, our very own country. First up,
Prefontaine Classic is coming May 25th. We will see Katie Moon and Deanna Price competing.
Excellent. Also competing at the Para Athletics World Championships is Noelle Malkamaki. She is competing Wednesday, the 22nd, in para shot put.
At the Huntington Beach Volleyball Open, Betsy Flint and partner Julia Scholes reached the quarterfinals, and Kelly Chang and partner Sarah Hughes made it to the semis.
In wheelchair fencing, Ellen Geddes won bronze at the women's epee category B, gold in the women's foil category B, and gold in women's team epee at the America's Zonal Championships in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Wow, they cleaned up.
I know. The whole team did fantastic. Corinne Lebecki won the women's elite criterium race at the U.S. Pro Road Cycling Championships for her 74th national title.
Just blows my mind. Jeffrey Lewis, aka B-Boy Jeffro, was at the Olympic qualifier series in Shanghai, China, and he got to the quarterfinal stage before being eliminated. And also, TKFLASTANis, we could use your help in finding new listeners. We have a great group of listeners so far, but we need to expand and find more of our people. Over 3 billion people apparently watched the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. If we could get a teeny tiny fraction of that, that's a little bit bigger than the teenier, tinier fraction that we have now, that would go a long way into helping us be more attractive to sponsors and find more of our people, because we love celebrating the Olympics and Paralympics with as many people as possible. We have a lot of problems with discoverability since we are not allowed to use the words Olympics or Paralympics in our title. So we really need your help in making us more discoverable. So if you could tell a friend about the show, post about it on social media, or if you're in Reddits or Discord groups, we would really appreciate your help in helping us find our audience. So that will do it for this episode. Let us know what you think of Para Javelin.
You can find us on X, YouTube, and Instagram at FlameAlivePod. Send us an email at flamealivepod@gmail.com. Call or text us at 208-352-6348. That's 208-FLAME-IT. Chat with us and other fans on our Facebook group, Keep the Flame Alive Podcast, and sign up for our weekly newsletter with even more Olympic and Paralympic info for you at our website, flamealivepod.com.
On Thursday, we'll be back with an Olympics focus episode, and we will welcome back our friend from Down Under, Ben Waterworth, from Off the Podium, and he'll join us to talk all things Paris and give us some Aussie insight. So thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep the flame alive.